Alex, I spent about 3 hours yesterday squinting at a piece of walnut, trying to figure out if I'd actually sanded out the cross grain scratches or if I was just hallucinating them in the dark.
Let me guess. You were relying on that single lonely 60-watt bulb hanging by a fraying cord over your shoulder?
It's a classic look, very tortured artist. But when I finally walked that board over to the window this morning, it looked like a cat had used it as a scratching post. I'd basically spent my whole afternoon polishing mistakes I couldn't even see.
It's the ignorance is bliss method of woodworking, until you turn the sun on. Today we're talking about lighting, because apparently, Tiger is tired of working in a Victorian coal mine, and I'm tired of hearing him complain about his eyesight.
It really is the most overlooked tool in the shed. We'll drop 2 grand on a table saw without blinking, but then we try to do precision joinery under a light
That has the same output as a firefly in a jar.
Well, according to the research, you're not just saving your projects, you're saving your brain. Studies show that proper lighting can bump productivity by 20%. Plus, it cuts down on the headaches and the where did I put my pencil 10-minute searches.
I don't think any amount of lumens can help me find my pencil once I've tucked it behind my ear and forgotten it exists. But you're right about the strain. There's a specific kind of physical exhaustion that comes from your eyes trying to fill in the blanks in a dim shop.
It's interesting looking at the data from offices. About 68% of people are miserable with their office lighting. They're dealing with glare, flickering tubes, and that weird hospital hallway vibe. And if you're a maker, your shop is your office.
I think the biggest hurdle for most of us is that we don't know the vocabulary. We go to the big box store, see a wall of white boxes, and just grab the ones that say shop light. But there's a massive difference between illuminated and well lit.
Okay, Professor, break it down for us. If I'm staring at a box of LED tubes, what am I actually looking for? Because bright isn't a technical term, right?
No, bright is how I describe my dog after he finally learns to sit. For lights, you want to look at 3 big things: lumens, Kelvin, and CRI. Think of lumens as the volume of the light. It's the raw amount of stuff coming out of the bulb. For a general shop, you're looking for a lot of volume. But Kelvin, that's the tone.
That's the warm versus cool thing, right? Like the difference between a candle-lit dinner and an operating room?
Spot on. You get down in the 2700K to 3000K range, and everything looks cozy and orange. Great for a living room, terrible for seeing if your chisel's actually on the line. Most shop guys swear by 5000K. It's what we call daylight. It's crisp. It keeps you awake.
But go too high and you feel like you're inside a refrigerator, right?
6500K is the danger zone. It's so blue, it feels like it's vibrating. I walked into a guy's shop once that was all 6500K, and I felt like I needed to check my pulse or start a surgical procedure. It's sterile, it's harsh. Stick to 5000K. It's the sweet spot for seeing wood grain as it actually is.
Talk to me about the flicker. Is it just me, or do those old fluorescent tubes actually make a humming noise that vibrates inside your skull?
It's not just you. That 60-cycle hum is the soundtrack to my early carpentry years. And when it gets cold, forget it. You flip the switch in January and those tubes just kind of glow a faint purple for 10 minutes while they try to wake up.
Which is why everyone is moving to LEDs?
It's a no-brainer now. They're instant on. They don't care if it's 10 degrees in your garage, and the energy draw is a fraction of the old stuff. But the real secret sauce, the thing almost no one looks at on the box, is the CRI, Color Rendering Index.
Okay, you lost me. Is that how accurate the colors look?
Exactly. It's a scale from 0 to 100. If you have a low CRI light, that beautiful piece of cherry you're working on might look like a muddy piece of pine. You want a CRI of 80 or higher. If you can find 90, buy it. It's the difference between seeing a brown board and seeing the deep reds and subtle gold flecks in the timber.
You know, I was reading about retail lighting, and they use this layering concept. They don't just blast the whole store with one giant sun. They have ambient, task, and accent lighting. Is that overkill for a wood shop?
Maybe the accent lighting's a bit much. I don't need a golden halo around my workbench. But the other two are vital. Most people make the mistake of just putting up a grid of lights on the ceiling and calling it a day.
And then they wonder why their own head is casting a giant shadow right over the exact spot they're trying to cut.
Exactly. That's the great eclipse of the workshop. You stand at the bench, lean in to see your mark, and boom, total darkness. You need task lighting. I've started mounting smaller, movable LED strips directly under my wall cabinets and even on the arms of my drill press.
You're basically turning your shop into a high-tech jewelry store.
It feels like it, but when you're trying to set a depth stop or line up a tiny drill bit, having light coming from the side instead of just the ceiling is a game changer. It kills the shadows.
What about glare? If you have these super bright LEDs and a shiny cast iron table saw top, doesn't that become blinding?
It can be a nightmare. I've had moments where the reflection off my table saw was so sharp, it felt like a laser beam hitting me in the eye. The trick there is diffusion. You don't want naked LED chips staring at you. You want fixtures with frosted covers, or you want to position them so the light is bouncing off the walls or ceiling before it hits the tool.
Or you could just stop waxing your tools so much, Tiger.
Never. A slick table is a happy table. But seriously, indirect light is your friend. In an office, they call it ambient light. In a shop, I call it not going blind at the joiner light.
We haven't talked about the big one yet, the sun. Most of the pro guides for home offices and studios say you should maximize natural light, but windows in a shop can be a double-edged sword, right?
Oh man, I love a window, but the sun is a fickle mistress. About 4 in my shop, the light comes in at this one specific angle through the west window and hits my lathe perfectly. For 20 minutes, I'm a genius. Then the sun moves an inch, and suddenly I'm staring directly into a supernova and can't see the wood spinning anymore.
So what's the fix? Blinds, or do you just take a coffee break for 20 minutes?
Mostly the coffee break. But you really have to be intentional. Natural light is great for morale. It keeps you from feeling like a mole. But you can't rely on it for precision. You need a baseline of artificial light that stays consistent, regardless of whether it's cloudy outside or 2 o'clock a.m.
That consistent baseline seems to be the key. I noticed a lot of the productivity guides mention that flickering or uneven light distribution actually causes physical fatigue because your pupils are constantly dilating and contracting to adjust.
You'll feel it in your neck and shoulders too. When you can't see well, you hunch, you lean in closer, you put your face 6 inches from a spinning blade because your eyes are struggling. I used to have a permanent kink in my neck until I realized I wasn't getting old, I was just working in the dark.
So, if someone is listening to this in their garage right now, looking up at a single dusty bulb, where do they start? Without spending a fortune on a lighting designer?
First, clean your bulbs. Seriously, sawdust is basically a dimmer switch you didn't ask for. Wipe down those tubes. You'd be amazed how much light you're losing to a layer of walnut dust.
Fair. What's step 2?
The parallel rule. Don't just put one light in the middle of the room. Put 2 long LED shop lights parallel to your main workbench. One a little in front of you and one a little behind. That crossfires the light and kills the shadows.
And the third?
Go for the 5000K daylight bulbs. It might feel a bit jarring at first if you're used to that warm yellow glow, but after an hour of working, your brain will thank you. You'll be more alert, your cuts will be cleaner, and you won't feel like you've done 10 rounds in the ring at the end of the day.
Plus, you might actually find those cross-grain scratches before you put the finish on.
That's the dream, Alex. That's the dream. Seeing the truth before the polyurethane hits the wood.
I think the biggest takeaway here is that lighting isn't an extra. It's an essential tool, just like a sharp chisel or a flat workbench. If you can't see the work, you can't do the work.
Exactly. You're not just buying bulbs. You're buying clarity. And honestly, it's the cheapest way to make yourself a better craftsman overnight.
Beautifully said. Now go find your pencil. I think it's actually in your pocket this time.
No, I checked there. Wait. Okay, you got me.